How do I
I'll
do
do
that?
it because I'm hosting.
Oh,
You might have to click OK on your screen.
okay. Yeah, that works now. I see the little red dot. Awesome. Yeah, I had a couple of requests from family members that couldn't make it. They wanted to watch it. So, okay. All right. Well, thank you. We're gonna have to do with dinging, aren't we? Yeah. So I am Tyler Linner. This is my thesis defense for my project-based thesis in sustainable communities at Northern Arizona University. The name of my thesis is Praxis Waste Solutions, Experiments in Local Waste Reduction Businesses. Problem we have, recycling is broken. We have a system where recycling depends on the value of the product, and we have to be able to process the product in a way that allows people to buy it at a competitive price that competes with raw materials. And we as Americans and Westerners do not sort recycling well enough. We don't have systems in place to get the purity high enough. We have too much trash in our garbage. We also have material recovery facilities locally, like the Flagstaff material recovery facility, that are hand sorted, and they are quite inefficient as far as what they should be doing. So they end up having to throw a lot away, and takes a lot of money to process that stuff. The more money you use processing, the less you get on the back end. So as a result, we take a lot of our trash from Flagstaff, and I'm in Minnesota now, but I'm talking as someone who did my research in Flagstaff. We sent a lot of stuff to the landfill. The landfill is a hollowed out hole in the Coconino National Forest, and you can see on the picture there that it's just a few short miles away from a national monument, which is pretty sad. So when we fill up the National Forest landfill there, we're going to have to cut down more trees in the forest, and that's sad. So let's try to close the loop and figure out what to do with this trash that does not put it into a big hole in the ground. Let's try to figure out, what can we do in our own communities in Flagstaff and beyond that will help us solve this problem. I learned about Precious Plastic, and that is a open source plastic recycling workshop. It's made by this guy, Dave Hackens in Netherlands. He's been working on it for quite a few years now. And it's a four machine setup that I will go over later. There are some price issues with that, whereas if you don't have a laser cutter and a full welding and fabrication workshop and knowledge of electronics like Ward, you might not be able to build it that easily yourself. But I think there are some options here. Oh wait, I'm not there yet. Yeah, so how do we make it more accessible? How do we make it cheaper? And how do we more with that as far as sustainability, reduce the amount of virgin steel and everything in that process? My research questions came out really small because I exported from open source into Microsoft, but I'll read them for you. Can non-standard material choices for precious plastic recycling machines make small-scale recycling programs more financially accessible to waste-burdened communities? Can precious plastic recycling machines be produced in a way that minimizes material throughput while maintaining effective and reliable operation? Can waste reduction generate enough revenue to support a small business? How can an entrepreneur pivot their business plan to create a fruitful niche? How can a waste reduction startup business create sustainability jobs where none existed before? And what challenges may face an entrepreneur seeking to create jobs in the sustainability field? First, let's go over the production process of, say, plastic items. First, we have to drill in the ground and hit aquifers and let a bunch of oil go into the aquifer. Then we have to run it through a pipeline through sacred land and drip into the sacred water. Then we have to mix it and turn it into a plastic. And after we refine the crude oil into kerosene, diesel, gasoline, natural gas, that kind of stuff, we use those products to lengthen the hydrocarbon chains. So if you imagine a kind of a noodle that is that carbon chain. We want to lengthen that, and it turns into more of like a spaghetti than a rigatoni if you're hungry right now. We take those polymer chains in plastic and we mold them into, if you look at number 1 and number 2 in the diagram below, they form a plug, and that allows you to have your consistent caps for your water bottles. So they'll actually screw on with accurate threads, and then it forms into, it blows hot air in and forms into the larger bottle mold. So that's a big process by itself, and that's usually done outside of the factory where they fill the bottle with liquid or whatever contents it has. So it has to be transported to the factory to be filled. Then it has to be transported out to the distribution centers. It may be in a different country or across the world. And from the distribution centers, they get trucked out to stores and online outlets. Then everyone, they either get delivered by UPS or FedEx or whatever, or people drive into the store and get them. And by the end of life, you know, after we've spent all this energy trying to produce these products and distribute them, then one day someone just says, oh, I'm done with this, and they throw their vacuum cleaner on the curb. So we want to kind of confront this treadmill of production. This is the consumption economy, or you know, way of saying, hi mom, another way of saying the basically. So capitalism in short is where the rich person buys a factory. They employ non-rich people in the factory to do work, and they pay the people doing work less than they're making in value, and sell the products at a profit. And that allows the person who started the factory to get richer, and everyone else kind of just loses a portion of their day. And this ends up, you want the person in capitalism, the person who starts the factory, or the person who puts in the capital in the first place, always wants a return on that investment. They want money back, they want growth. So the only way to succeed in capitalism is to increase that growth forever. So the eternal growth of consumption and producing more things, producing more services, selling more things, and as a result, having people throw away more things is really central to the economic system of capitalism. We want to challenge that, because this you know, when 9/11 happened, George Bush came out and said the best thing you can do right now is spend money and go buy stuff. So is the American dream really this just everlasting treadmill of building things and buying things and throwing things away? I don't think it is. Only 9% of plastic is recycled in the world, and that's pretty sad, because a lot of it is recyclable if you process it correctly or you collect it correctly. Capitalism does depend on this waste, and they really want to make as much stuff as possible, and making things easily repairable or easily recyclable goes against their ethos generally, because it costs more money to design it, more money to produce it, and it doesn't necessarily make people want to buy it more if there's a product that is all recycled or recyclable. So I try to go into this to build an anti-capitalist business, and by anti-capitalist I mean a business where everyone who works for the business gets paid the value of their labor. They all have a controlling stake in the company, or you know, some kind of union-esque control over their destiny, and build this business within a capitalist framework, because we live in a capitalist world. This is called interstitial social transformation. It's where you find a crack in the edifice of a system, and you kind of burrow in there and you expand that crack and build a place for yourself to reside. The opportunity is to see plastic waste not as this thing that's going to get thrown in our landfill, but something that we can use to create new products and to create wealth in our communities. In the past, we as Americans, back when America was great, we had regional and local manufacturing. For instance, I inherited a bunch of my grandfather's tools when he died, and he had a lot of tools that were made within you know, within the region. So we're in the Minneapolis area. We had tools from Milwaukee and in Chicago and stuff like that. We can bring that back, and we can have bring money back to the United States instead of sending it overseas, and we can have more control over what we actually produce. This will reduce the dependence on volatile markets because Wall Street is a gambling club. And when we hitch our livelihoods to a gambling club, we end up getting laid off, and no one likes that. So I think having more control over our work environments will help us have a more stable careers. Destroy capitalism from the inside out to benefit people and planet. You know, capitalism is not the market. Capitalism is just this idea that the rich people should be able to build a factory and make money off of everyone else working. So let's take care of that and build a more equitable system. Death to capitalism. This is the Precious Plastic Workshop. The shredder is on the left, so you can throw those bottles that you see down there in the shredder. It turns them into little tiny flakes. We call them flakes. You throw the flakes into the extruder there. The extruder has an auger bit that compresses and melts the plastic until it comes out as a wet noodle of plastic, basically, and you can make those little, what do you call them, 3D printer filaments, or the little bowl there, all kinds of stuff. The injection molder, third over, is a lot like the extruder, except you pull that handle down, and that pushes a piston down instead of the auger. And you can shoot that into a mold and make it just like the big boys do. Make parts just like the big boys do. The oven is the last one, and that is literally a kitchen oven with a car jack underneath. So you crank the car jack up, and that kind of smushes the mold together when you have hot molten plastic. And you can see a few cool projects they have with that. So I did get grants to buy and or build all these machines, which is pretty cool. The problem is that the shredder, for instance, without a motor is $830. It's not a cheap item, and you have to have specialized equipment to cut those pieces out and assemble them. You know, $1,500 is not out of the realm for buying a shredder like this that's ready to run. I did not do that. Spent a lot of money and time trying to not do that, ended up spending a lot more. But we can cut costs here, I think. And this is the whole idea that my thesis was started out on, is we have little spacers between those blades, and we have the big side pieces and all the stuff that I wanted to see if we could build that out of plastic, make plastic sheets and cut them out and assemble a shredder that is partially produced from recycled plastic. So here's the shredder that I ended up with. It had a frame made out of reclaimed wood. You can put 5-gallon buckets underneath and catch the flakes. This reduces, well, the idea is to reduce steel usage in this, and with the thesis project, to minimize plastic usage, because even though it's recycled, we still don't want to waste it. We can do a lot more with less material and do a lot more good if we are a little bit smarter about how we use things and don't just waste it. I did some tests on HDPE, ABS, and HIPS, which are different types of plastic, and figured out that styrene-based plastics like ABS and HIPS were more useful for me, stronger and stiffer plastics that I could use for building cool stuff. This is just fun. It's how I moved it around to do a couple shows to show people how it works. And it does fit on the bike trailer. Here's the mold from the oven to make plastic sheets. And these were the sheets that I was going to use to cut out to make the parts for the shredder. This is a mold made by Artisan Metalworks in Flagstaff. It's got a flat sheet on the bottom and the sides there. And then the flat sheet on the top kind of presses in when the plastic is all molten, and the excess kind of rises to the top and pushes out the air. So when you pull that out, it develops a cool little plastic sheet. Here's a team early on. This is when it was still in our garage. Darren, me, and Fran lived together in this house, and so it was kind of natural to all get involved in it. And Anthony is there from Fossil Free NAU. He helped out quite a bit. We have the oven on the left, Darren on the bottom left. Above him is Anthony. I'm in the middle there with my blue shirt, and Fran is on the right. And so you can see Darren and Fran are both holding clipboards that we'll talk about later. We realized that we could make a small business out of this. around the spring of 2019. So Darren pushed me to go and apply for the Innovate Waste Challenge, which was a collaboration between the city of Flagstaff and the Northern Arizona Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology, and that's called NACET. So I kind of roped both of them in, and we made a presentation and did a good job. So they gave us $8,000 to move into the NACET and try to recycle some plastic. The research and development went on a few different tangents. One of them was clipboards. I made around 20 clipboards and sold the vast majority of them to people on Facebook Marketplace in Flagstaff. They were made out of discarded sleds that we picked out of the woods. So that was pretty cool. They weren't the ideal clipboards that I would ever envision, but it's nice to have that very visible product that shows where you got it. And I think it was the first product that anyone had ever made out of the sleds in Flagstaff, and instead of just throwing it away. Climbing holds, I actually went over to the Fine Arts Building and using a clay mold that I had made. Well, I actually had a little event with Snow Mountain River in Flagstaff to have people make molds, picked one of the nicer, easier ones to make, and did a sand cast with molten aluminum. So I was able to make a climbing hold mold out of that. I shot a couple examples, but apparently plastic is quite slippery, so we didn't use those. Didn't have time to expand on that. The tokens there, Mother Road Brewing in Flagstaff uses little wooden tokens to use for kind of like a free drink token if you win something or you're a regular or whatever it is. So they wanted to get more tokens. We had help from a lady at NACET who was working on a high heel design, and she needed all these mills and scanners and stuff. So she used her mill to help us with this and made a little mold for us. We shot a few of these and they came out looking pretty cool, but they took a lot of time to make. Those are from sleds as well. Scaling up was the big problem. With all of those products that I just mentioned, they took a ton of time to make and would have been a big pain in the butt to try to make it at any scale or try to bring any profit in on them. It was really a losing game with the profit on those. I had to make some hard decisions and say, you know what, we got to figure something out and make some changes around here, or we're not going to have this place anymore. So I kind of ignored the signs that I shouldn't be doing it, but I kept gathering more material anyway. We ended up going to Hullabaloo, which is on the bottom there. It's a music festival in Flagstaff. They give out these reusable polystyrene cups, tumblers, that everyone who gets into the event gets a tumbler. And so we had a box out, and we collect 150 pounds of tumblers for recycling. But the real cool thing about that is that we learned about green events and doing waste reduction at events. So here's our system that we came up with over a few events. We had a bunch of waste separation stations, and that has a sign in the middle that shows people what it is. What do you call it? Trash can for aluminum cans and plastic bottles, one for landfill, and one for food waste. So it keeps it really simple. It's really convenient because we put them around the event grounds so people didn't have to walk too far, and it's modular so we can expand or contract, and we can stack things very easily. We also like to have people there to answer questions about recycling, because a lot of people say, well, why can't I recycle a cup along with a bottle? And we get to answer, you know, it's because of the additives in the plastic that you can't necessarily mix them out in the real world of recycling. You have to keep them very separated. Planning an event, this is just a quick image of the Overland Expo map from 2020 that we were planning. It's a big 4x4 truck show for camper type people. The red dots with the circles around them are waste separation stations with the estimated walk distance for people who are in the event, so to make sure that we have more stations around the areas where people make waste, like the food trucks and the bathrooms. and make sure that we can talk to our organizers and say, hey, here's our plan. What do you think about that? Is it okay to have the dumpster here? Can we run through here with a cart? And that worked out pretty well. The cost to run the event was the big question mark for us, to make sure that we didn't paint ourselves into a corner. The attendance and duration were big questions that we had early on with event organizers. So if you have the attendance that comes one day, it's a lot different than having the same people camp over for 3 nights, like Picking in the Pines, and that's 3 times as much work for us, where, you know, if you just count tickets, it doesn't look like that much. The type of event makes a lot of difference, because like a beer festival, like Made in the Shade, would give away the little commemorative cups, kind of like Hullabaloo, and we would set out a separate bin for them to make sure that we could kind of pull those materials to the side to do recycling later on in-house and keep them out of landfill. We also want to make sure that we have access to these events from Flagstaff and from our home base here, to make sure that we're not driving out somewhere where we're not going to get anybody to work for us and it costs too much in gas. So we did most of our stuff right in Flagstaff. Labor considerations, of course, you know, you want people to show up, and we ended up giving people free tickets to events a lot of times to incentivize them to come in, and we make sure that they're not drinking before they came to work for us, but it worked out pretty well. And the events, we talked to them about how to pay for all this, and we tried to put on maybe a cent or maybe a quarter for a ticket, maybe 75 cents for a ticket, maybe $1, depending on what the event looks like. And we got shot down a lot on that. There was an issue with event organizers having the thought that maybe people wouldn't come to the event if it was $1 more. I don't think that would have happened, but that was their line, and they stuck to it. We ended up trying to work with them to build it into the larger budget, and then just have a line item for us. But for 2019, I don't think we made over $1,500 for a whole event, for the whole first season. We got a lot of very, very nice volunteers to come help us. And if anyone watching this later was a volunteer for us, we greatly appreciate it. And we could not have done this without you. This first season was really a proof of concept. So we had to do it on a shoestring and prove that our system could work. And we really appreciate the volunteers coming out and helping us make that happen. A collection, this is a central sorting station we used at Fort Tuthill for one event, and you can see all the big bags of recyclables. So we were able to crush the cans and flatten the bottles, put them in bags to be taken out. The food waste got taken into bigger bins to take to a pig farmer. So the pigs would eat the food waste, and the trash, of course, went in trash bags. So we were able to do a lot of that work right on site there and be able to take the already sorted stuff out. A lot of times we did end up with extra recycling to process, though, and we appreciate all the help everyone put in to come out and help us crush cans and bottles and put that stuff in the appropriate bins. This is a bunch of recycling in the work truck, and the trailer behind it was also full of recycling. So we had a lot of stuff going on. I think we got a few $100s out of this trip, and when you're making $1,500 for about a month of work, every little bit counts. For the first season, we did 16 different events in 2019, which was, we started halfway through the summer. So I think that was pretty impressive for us to get rolling that quick. And I want to give a shout out to Darren for kind of talking to event organizers and helping us get in there. Our diversion rate was 69%. To put that in perspective, usually in America, about 25% of recycling is actually trash. So to have only 30% trash out of the whole event and the rest of it is 70% is recycling is really, really cool. We're really proud of that. And that got 9,149 pounds diverted out of the landfill for that season. Based on, well, a couple of those are estimates early on, but we developed a system to weigh all the stuff coming out of each event. Yeah. So we would stand on a scale with every bag of trash and every bag of recycling, and got that system down pretty well by about halfway through that season. 572 pounds per event. We also did some side projects I wanted to note. A lot of the event organizers would throw away these huge rolls of vinyl banners. So I said, hey, we can try stuff with that. Took them home. I made the frame bag for my bike there. That was an old Marriott logo from a sponsorship. And it's a very nice little bag and pretty durable with that vinyl. We worked with a local person, Tina, at Threaded Together to do some prototypes. I think she made a couple tote bags and a purse. We were going to go into small scale production with that and put it in boutique stores. Styrofoam recycling, we set up a drop off for people in Flagstaff to come and drop off their styrofoam, medium and low density styrofoam. We didn't take any of the cups or takeout containers. And if you're going to recycle, you need to know there are at least 3 types of styrofoam. We did a lot of student move out trash picks. The students in our neighborhood would move out and leave their whole lives in the curbs. So for instance, my mountain bike there, you can see the wheels and the front fork were taken off a bike that someone had crashed and left on the side of the road. It was a nicer bike than mine, so I took the parts and I'm still riding on them today. Got a bunch of ballot boxes, and we were going to try to shred those up and recycle them, but we ended up just selling them to people who needed big boxes, so that worked out pretty well. We tried to work with the government and local businesses like SMR to enact some sled policies so that we would not have so much sled waste. Try to do maybe a rental sled program. We didn't have enough time to make that happen. Worked at Fix-It clinics quite a bit, where Fix-It clinics are something the city of Flagstaff was hosting and they still do host, to help people fix and learn how to fix their products and their devices and even bicycles that I worked on at Fix-It clinics, so that these things are kept in use and not thrown away as soon as they would be. And one thing that wasn't a profitable endeavor but needed to be done is I had to replace the work truck's clutch, and that was my first time replacing a clutch. It was quite a job over the winter of 2019-2020. 2020. Well, we had about 20 events on schedule, people we had talked to, and big thanks to Annie, our NAU intern for the winter of 2019 and 20, for contacting these people and helping out with budgets and waste separation station maps. We really did a lot of work to set this stuff up, and we had budgets to give people, the cost estimates and everything ready to go. Just kidding. 2 days before our first event in March 2020, we got news that there was all the events were shut down and we could not go to it. So all of the money that we were planning on making that summer was all gone. The economic assistance packages from the government didn't work out for us. We were too young of a business, and the private grants that we applied for didn't want us either. I think we just didn't quite have enough momentum behind us at that point yet. So we moved into a smaller office at NASET and gave away the recycling equipment to the school district, and they, I believe, gave that on to Ward can mention later, but it's with a local shop or a workshop for people to use. That's good that got into good hands. And yeah, the Praxis founders continue on. I'm working on a couple things that I want to do, and I've heard from Fran that she is actually working in sustainability at NAU now. So very cool. I don't know what Darren's doing, but I'm sure he's making a splash wherever he is. Lessons. Get help. We had a lot of bad advice. We took so much bad advice. We could fill a book with bad advice. My advice to anyone starting a business is to pay someone to give you advice and make them on the hook for it. If they're giving you tax advice or bookkeeping advice, make sure that they are being paid to make that work, because we ended up with a lot of bookkeeping issues and tax issues and stuff that we didn't specialize in, we don't know about, and cost a lot of money on the back end to try to fix things that we didn't know about. Fran was doing books for us, and I really appreciate the work she did put in, but I don't think, neither of us really knew what we were doing, and it didn't work out that well for that. It helps to be rich first if you're starting a business. So if you start with 30 grand, you're probably going to be better off than starting off with grad school debt. That's a nice tip for you if you're going to be a capitalist. You got to start with capital. Don't start a business right before all the events shut down. Seems like pretty obvious, but no one gave me a crystal ball. Consider the demographics. So when we were planning out events, we looked at where can we get labor if we need to pay people to come in and work for us, like sorting, recycling and stuff. For instance, we had a cultural event out in Santa Fe that we were trying to do in 2020, and we noticed that there was a university there. So our plan was to draw off the university like we did NAU to get help with servicing that event. Conclusions: Precious Plastic version 3, which is the one that I used, was not easily scalable for me. There is no way to make money off of it on a full time. And I know I warned you said that early on, but sometimes you gotta find it out yourself, right? So the materials usage doesn't matter in a precious plastic shredder if you can't make money off the shredder in the first place. So really, who cares if you make it out of plastic if it's not going to make you money? Recycled materials in manufacturing, we should always be doing this. And the more products we make out of recycled plastic, the higher the value of recycled plastic will be because of the demand. So if we can make more products out of recycled materials and good stuff like that, then we can actually make recycled materials more valuable to recycle in the first place. It can help people actually collect those bottles and cans and bring them in instead of throwing them in the trash like they do now. Recyclable material is free. Most recyclable materials just out there. People just give it to you because it doesn't cost them any money to give them away, and doesn't make them any money to recycle them. So they'll just give it to you. And we want to target the sources of this stuff. You don't just want to go around pulling out of people's waste management bins. You want to go to a place like an event where people are throwing away these things en masse, and you can collect a lot with a short amount of time. A lot more efficient use of labor. We're gonna try all kinds of different stuff. Try it early and work out whether it's got a potential for profit. And I wasn't very good about that because it stemmed out of a thesis project. So if we were to start again, I would probably be a little bit more sensitive to which projects were a waste of time. We want to drive revenue, and we want to bring in those events and make sure that we can bring money into the business, but we also want to sleep at night and make sure that the people who work for us are being fairly treated, and that we're distributing the funds and the revenue in a way that lines up with our values as as people who like sustainability. Get good marketing. Marketing sells tap water for $70.50 a gallon, and that's ridiculous. So, one of the best things you can do for a small business is to have good marketing and that good brand image where people want your product. That's about it. Special thanks. I want to go through the list a little bit. Ozalita Project was amazing, and they helped out with both the machines and a huge grant for me to be able to do this full time for 2019. City of Flagstaff and Innovate Waste Challenge with NASET was instrumental in getting us into a real space. ECOS at NAU helped us with a grant to build some of the machines and purchase the materials to make it work. Arizona Recycling Coalition was amazing in a lot of ways, and I just got to throw it out to everyone working there to be huge resources, and I think we got a grant for them as well. Artisan Metalworks for putting in that time to make some really bare-brained ideas. Snow Mountain River, we actually demonstrated our shredder there, and we're able to work with them on the climbing hold ideas. Unfortunately, they didn't pan out, but we really appreciate their help. Habitat Restore gave us a deal on the kitchen oven. Ward, really appreciate all your help in building the machines, because I would not have been able to do the machines at all. I would have been completely lost and it would have cost a lot more money. So thank you for all your help in answering my weird questions about recycling. Fran, really instrumental in Praxis in general, for being there the whole time and putting up with the ridiculous schedule we had to pull on events a lot of times, and just for being support. And thank you, Darren, for getting in and talking to the events and getting people excited about us and kind of selling our idea to events early on so that we could really start to get into that market. Leonard Quimby was our business mentor at NASET, and I want to thank him for kind of being a sounding board for our weird ideas and helping us along the journey. So if I forgot anyone, I sincerely apologize, but there has been a lot of people who've helped out with this project, and I really thank everyone who is a part of it for helping me out on that.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. And let's give Tyler a round of applause.
Are we still recording this?
We are.
Okay. Oh, I see it. All right. Yeah. What's going on? I think we have questions now, right?
Right. So yeah, the protocol is that anybody in the audience who is not on the committee is free to ask some questions of Tyler or make comments.
Hi, Tyler. I have some questions for you.
Uh-oh.
Hi, everyone else that I haven't seen in a while. And hi, Tyler's dad. I see you on videos. I have a three-parter question for you. The first part is, for this was an epic journey for you. So which part are you most proud of during this?
Oh, man. I think I'm most proud that we were able to build budgets for this stuff for the 2020 season and turn this crazy thesis idea into potentially viable business. And I think we were able to show a lot of events that it's really not that hard to do waste collection if you put some effort toward it. And one person directing an event could make sure that happens. One person in the staff. So
yeah, that's cool. What aspect of this was most shocking or surprising to you?
Oh man, well, I think it was my first time really paying for someone else to do metal fabrication for me, and the $100 an hour stacks up really fast. So I would have been a lot better off getting a $500 welder and chop saw and doing it myself than it would have been to get Artist Metalworks to. I mean, they do amazing work, but as a grad student doing grants, it really was not a smart idea for me.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have had a lot more use for welding supplies too in the long term.
I've done that. I learned how to weld since then, and it wasn't that hard.
Nice. And last question, do you have any other things in life that you are tinkering with right now that you are excited about?
I have 4 Cold War era cars that I've been doing a lot of work to, keeping stuff out of the junkyard, and man, that takes a lot of work. So it's really fun. After I've worked my butt off for grad school and this thesis and the business, to be able to take a couple of years and just really dive into stuff that I really enjoy on a personal level, and not just do sustainability stuff, but that too. And I just taught sustainability merit badge at my old Boy Scout troop, and looking to get more into more community involvement and get involved with some groups here, because the only way to spread this stuff is to talk about it. And I'm working at an auto parts store right now, and it's not really the place to talk about recycling.
Yeah, I'm excited for your next chapter. It's great being done with your thesis.
Yeah, and then I can finally put that MA on my resume, and maybe people will take me seriously. Yeah, a little bit candid, maybe.
Thank you.
Well, I'll just say that one of the things that you really did that needed to be done was to raise awareness of the problems, and by working each of the problems, although they were many of them were doomed to failure, you talk to a lot of people, and that's I think that's really one of the big lessons. You don't get any credit for it. You don't make any money out of it, but getting personal contact as you did with so many people had to help a lot. And I think that's a lesson for all of us. I'm trying to use that lesson now, even in recycling and the way we do in the city, is to get to talk to people about what it is, why you do it, and why it doesn't work. And so that's one thing. The other is that now that you're gone, we have our maker space where you could have done all that welding for $50 a month.
That's right. Yeah, Ozalita Project does a great job of outreach in especially the community market every week. So, oh, hello, Fran. We're in question answer time. So yeah, Ozalita Project is amazing to go out and talk to people about that, and I think that combined with us being at events such as at the amphitheater, we were able to go and talk to people over and over, and really people started to expect us there, which is really cool. And we get to answer questions, and people ask those weird questions. So, anyone else have questions?
I don't necessarily have a question, but I just want to give you mad props as well for taking on so many different projects. You have such an entrepreneurial spirit, and you wore a lot of hats. I mean, you and obviously Fran and Darren took on there are so many problems that were interrelated, and it was really challenging, I think, for you to choose and focus on one. But none of you were afraid to get your hands dirty. So again, I'm just amazed at your can-do attitude. That was always your position. So congratulations. I see it as a huge learning experience, obviously.
Thank you.
I'm really proud. Still really proud of you.
So tempted to start another project. That's how the projects get you. Oh, I can just take one more.
Yeah, just one more. So
yeah.
It was nice to see, and it's really inspiring. So just to know that you could take it on, and you can do everything yourself. It's just not a lot of time to learn everything all at that exact moment.
Yeah, and I still have a lot of this stuff in the back of my mind, and I know that I talked to a lot of people about it. Like I talked to Tina about doing this stuff. It would not be hard for her to pick up and start making backpacks out of the banners. So for one example, all that information's out there. It's in the ether. So. Anyone else?
Yo, what's up?
Hey.
I'm so sorry for being late. Yeah, I just want to say congratulations on your defense, and I'm sure it was beautiful. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate all you've done, and I know that it wasn't easy, especially in 2020. It really hit the fan, but couldn't have done this without you and Darren, and it really. It feels less like a single thesis project and more like a group project, and I appreciate that greatly, really.
Well, I mean, I've taken all we've learned from Praxis and put it into place at NAU, so it's been really helpful to me too.
It's good to hear.
Fran, the presentation has been recorded, and I'm happy to share that link with you later.
Oh my God, please do. I thought it was at 2.
Okay.
If I can get the link, I'm going to put it on YouTube as well. So that should be there for future embarrassment. Anyone else? Mom? Dad? You don't have to. But
Okay, well, if there's no comments or questions from others in the broader audience, then I think we'll wish everybody a good day, and just the committee members and Tyler will stick around here in the Zoom room.
The Zoom room for the cool kids.
Yes. But thanks everybody for attending and lending your support.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice job.
Thanks.
Bye. See you guys later.
Bye, bye, Tyler. Good job from Mom.
Mom, I don't think you're out of here. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Are you still? I don't know what's going on. Yeah, anyway.
Well, yeah, so we can have some questions, comments from the committee now.
Is Ward still here?
He is.
I'm here.
I see him.
There. Okay. Yeah, what do you have questions about?
I had a question. So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to the tension of trying to create something that's an anti-capitalist model in a capitalist world where, you know, it's like, even though you're wanting to do something for different reasons than profit, you're still constrained by, you know, the dollar signs and constrained by all of that happening. And I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about that tension in your project.
Yeah, the hardest thing was trying to find something to sharpen my sickle all the time. I mean, the hammer is fine, but the sickle really was tough. No, I mean, it's really not a difference between there aren't two different dollars, you know. I think a lot of people have this conception that communism has to be like this authoritarian socialism, Soviet, like Stalinist stuff, and really in the reality of the world, I see communism more as everyone kind of being paid what they earn. And so that when you talk about profit, there are two kinds of profit that I want to go over. One is that when you say you're selling a product, you want to make sure that the cost that you buy the product for is less than the cost that you sell it for. Otherwise, you can't pay yourself. And that's the kind of profit that we were looking for, to make sure that we can cover our costs and cover the costs of our labor, because it is a service-based industry in the events. And the profit that we didn't want to deal with was the profit of the labor surplus in Marx terms, and taking, say, you know, paying someone $10 an hour when we're really getting $20 an hour out of them. And that extra $10 an hour that we're not paying them would traditionally go into the CEO's pocket, and we didn't want to do that. So more of a, you know, what is everyone's time worth, and what can we do to make that equitable and pay everyone what they're really doing, instead of this kind of like trickle up economics that I like to call it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, so not exploiting anyone.
Yeah. Sustainable. You can't have sustainability without social sustainability. Everyone's got to be happy. Lord?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's parts of the system as it exists that does all this stuff and tries to work around it. And you probably weren't aware of it, but you know, there's the whole idea of B Corps, where they're benefit corporations that are built around this same concept. You know, you still have to have enough money to survive, but your goals are to satisfy all of your stakeholders, including the environment, and there's somebody overseeing that. Yeah. So that's one pathway. Another,
they certify kind of like organic, right?
Yes, yes. You get certified, and it's kind of an interesting process. I've watched a couple of companies. The other one that I've been involved with was gain sharing, where you look at your profit, and if you get above break even, you figure out how you're going to share that gain with your employees. So there's pieces of this that are already in place. It's not all black and white. And just at this moment when we're going for so many things with, climate change and everything else, we're getting a lot of people looking hard at what it's going to take. So I think it's going to be an interesting path to watch as we move forward. Capitalism, there's people that are working hard to change capitalism. B Corps are sort of one little way. But I think you sort of have to watch, don't let your attitude get in your way of progress. It's going to be an evolutionary world.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you, Tyler, that's sort of a, I suppose, sort of a speculative question or an invitation to you to speculate on what things might be like in the absence of the pandemic, because you were running the waste collection events in large part on passion and on volunteer energy, and that's great, but it's not sustainable, as you know. And so I'm just wondering what you think perhaps was the potential, if you're talking about you all being a little bit more organized about developing budgets and thinking about, can there be a little bit of a fee added to the ticket price to pay for this? What are your thoughts about the extent to which this maybe could have grown into a sustainable business?
Well, we did have organizers trying to get us in. For instance, the Overland Expo organizer tried to set us up with an event in Fort Collins. So we would have, usually with events that were further away from home, we would ask the organizer for help, because they usually have people working for them who are interested in getting free tickets, and they could potentially furnish more organizers for us. And we would kind of make up for that in the fee for our services. So being able to have volunteers waiting for us would be the easiest way to do stuff, especially further away from home. And then throughout the season in Flagstaff, on kind of the home market, if you will, I think it would have made a lot of sense to have recurring volunteers, or so I should say, we call them volunteers because they were the whole first season, but recurring employees who, maybe they're on call for, X number of weekends for the whole summer, and just know that if they're going to sign up, they do all the tax stuff, and we sign them up as an employee, and that's just their part-time work. I think that'd be the easiest way to do it. We also looked at doing labor contracting companies that would hire their own people and then send them out to random little jobs here and there. It's one way to fill in some gaps. Otherwise, I think the best way that we came about doing budgeting for events is that they just wanted to give us a flat fee, like, here's $12,000, go do it, instead of adding into the ticket price. Because the ticket price, I had an Excel document going on to figure out an estimate or a quote for what it might cost, something to work off of. But it's really important to get down in the weeds there and know that, hey, we're going to have 65 separation stations, and we're going to need this many people over this many hours. We're going to have these shifts, and I don't know how it was going to go. I had a better idea in 2020, but it would have been really nice to do a couple events at least to get a better feel for what would have been possible. I do know that there are companies that are doing these in stadiums and stuff for sports events. And again, they have one of the things that Leonard Quimby told us is that we want this kind of controllable atmosphere. You want a fence around the area that you're working in. You don't want to be wandering into the woods. We did EDM festival, June Jam, and it was out in the middle of BFE, south of Flagstaff, in the forest, and it was just everywhere. And that was really hard to do because there were no borders. There's no way of containing what's going on. So that's one of the important things about going forward, is like, if a business is going to do this, make sure that you have a defined territory.
So, and I'd like to ask one question about the plastics recycling component too. And one of the things that I found super exciting about your work was this idea of really developing a small scale local plastics recycling capability, which sounds like you're saying isn't really, it's doable, but it's not profitable. There's no way anybody can actually make a living doing that.
Now
Is that
with
right?
just plastic machines.
Hmm.
But I had to skip over a bunch for the presentation, obviously, but a 30-page document into 30 minutes. We did look at price out some different shredders from Alibaba, and they were about starting at about $1,500 for a shredder that would probably shred at least 10 times more plastic than the precious plastic one. So the question is, if we went into that and wanted to be serious about it, like I wanted to originally, it would have probably been a better idea to get the grants for Chinese shredder stuff. And you think, oh, China, maybe it's cheap. Well, China is the place that all this stuff is done. So they're the people to go to. They know how to build this stuff, and they build it for their home market. So it would make a lot of sense to buy some Chinese shredders and start up a company based on those to build whatever you want. And if you're careful about what products you want to plan, and you can plan out a range of products, we're talking about like ice scrapers or door stops and crap like that. But if you get more high dollar stuff or more individualized, you want the value added. So for Mother Road Brewing, the fact that they could have a piece of plastic with their name stamped in it was a huge value added for them. It's because the wooden ones they had just had an ink stamp. So something that's molded into it was really cool for them. And then to have the local waste put into it, and all these different things kind of add up. Or if you have the correctly scaled machines, you should be able to make a small manufacturing facility that will handle that kind of scale. I just started with the wrong place.
So you do think that there's a role potentially for small scale plastics recycling that isn't at the giant industrial scale?
Yeah, and I think it's very, very dependent on what products you can make, because you want a product that's high value and easy to produce, and that's not easy to do. But if you have the low order quantities, a lot more companies are willing to do it, where you don't have to buy 100,000 of these tokens. Maybe you buy 400. And that's something that you can do on a smaller scale.
Mm-hmm.
And integrating with the textile stuff would be a good way to spread it out as well, and kind of make a better name for yourself. There's a Rogue Panda is a company in Flagstaff that does bicycle textile stuff like frame bags. And I was going to, once I got some prototypes working, reach out to them to integrate some vinyl into it, maybe a special edition line for them, kind of like Vans shoes do the different patterns on different stuff, to get those products into somebody else's shop and bring some money, maybe a co-branding effort or something like that. That was something that on the horizon, maybe at the end of 2020, I would have been able to work on.
Right. Okay. Okay, Diana or Ward, any other questions?
No. I watched a lot of it up close, so
Right.
and
Okay.
I've stayed in touch with what what the world's doing, and it's really evolving. And some of what Tyler did would fit into it, and some of it is sort of bypassing him. It's just an interesting time.
And you've been dealing with some plastic to oil stuff, which is a completely different thing.
Yep.
With a completely different set of machines. And honestly, that's more chemistry than I can deal with. But another way of dealing with local plastic waste if there's a refinery nearby.
Yes. Yeah, they're having to bring it in from long distances because economy of scale forces you to make those things pretty big.
Yeah.
So, but there's, transportation costs and so many pieces come into the story. I mean, they couldn't find truck drivers to get cardboard out of the existing MRF. They had 7 truckloads inside the MRF, and there's just no room for it. And you get the vagaries of the real world.
Yeah, and I mean, that's another issue of like, we want to enjoy our work. We want to get paid well for our work. So what is going to bring people back into doing work that we all need to be done? We need someone to be recycling. We need someone to be driving trucks. We need someone to be cooking burgers and all those things we seem to have issues with. So that's above that's a postdoc thing, I think, trying to figure that out. But
yeah.
Okay. Well, what I would like to do is to, I'd like the 3 committee members to deliberate briefly. So I think what I'll do is, Tyler, I'm going to put you in a breakout room. And put your mom in there too, in case she's still there.
Join room 1.
Yes. So go ahead and do that.
More fire warnings.
Yes. Sheesh. Okay. Okay, Ward, you're not way out on the east side, are you?
Yeah, well, I'm not that far. No,
Yeah, okay.
I'm on 4th Street.
Okay, you're safe.
I'm
for
safe.
now.
Yeah,
Yes.
for now, but it
Yes.
sounds like it could blow our way.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's we'll just chat about our thoughts, and basically we can approve Tyler's project as is, or suggest any changes we would like in the written product. Certainly, I think what was reflected in the presentation as well as in our experiences, boy, that was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And even though things didn't go as he planned, but that was kind of baked in as part of the learning process.
Yep.
So I personally really have no hesitation in passing his work.
Right.
I agree.
So are there any kind of changes either of you would like to suggest? And this would be just for the written document that he's turning in, not for anything else.
No, I mean, it would have been helpful if he had a better view of the world as he came into it, but given where he was, and he had to go where he went. So I don't think there's anything to be gained by going back to those points.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I agree with that. So I think we should tell him we're passing him, and I will work with him on making sure he gets all the formatting down according to what the graduate college wants.
Right.
And I'll take care of that paperwork. So I think that'll do it. And I very much want to thank both of you for your participation.
Sure.
And yeah, Ward, especially. I mean, obviously you have a great deal of expertise that we can't hope to get anywhere near in the program. So this would not have happened at all without your considerable help. I'm very appreciative of that.
Yeah, glad to help. I kind of need to leave. Is that okay?
Yeah, I will close the breakout room, and they will come back, or Tyler will come back. And Ward, I hope I get to see you at a cider press this fall.
Yeah.
I hope the weather cooperates with that.
Yeah, we're waiting. The next few weeks, we'll see.
Yes. Yeah.
Whether we have a freeze and kill them all off or not.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'll see you all later then, if that's okay.
Okay. Thanks, Ward.
I will take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, I think he should be drifting back in here soon. There. Oh, there's Mom. Hello. Where did Tyler go?
We lost him.
There he
There.
is. Okay, Tyler, well, we lost Ward because he had to go, but I'm happy to tell you that we were all unanimous in deciding that this is definitely passing work. So you have passed. So
Congratulations.
congratulations. And, you know, I think all of us who were here for your work know what an extraordinary amount of work this was, and you know how entrepreneurial it was, and it was really, I know it was not easy a number of times along the way, but it was really impressive work. So good job.
Felt like 2 thesis projects in one.
Pretty much, yes, at least. Yeah.
But I've never
So,
done anyway, so there we go.
so as next steps, I mean, basically what you have to do is just do the paperwork, the program of study, and the finish up the application to graduate, and then format the paper according to the graduate college guidelines.
Yeah.
And that should pretty much take care of it. I'll get the paperwork into the graduate college indicating that, you know, the faculty committee is approving your work.
Okay, thank you. If I have any questions about the 17 forms that they have on the website, who do I talk to? You?
Yeah, that would be me. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks. I'm gonna try to do that this week. I got a couple other things going on, but I want to make sure that I get some progress on that. So yeah, we'll get that through.
Okay, sounds good.
The deadline is officially for like getting the thesis formatting done. So I think it's at May something, but I don't want to push it too far.
Yeah, I think it's May 6th in the email that I just sent out today. But you know, yeah, don't go to the last minute.
Yeah, I'll do it as soon as I can.
Okay, great.
Congratulations.
Yeah, good job.
Appreciate it. It's been wild.
You did it.
Yeah. It's good to have Fran here too. I was hoping Darren would